Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 277 based on novel. So let's start. After the four of them returned to the southern regions, there was no pause. They went all the way to the extreme south. In a few days, the four returned to the Burning Valley. When the ancestor of Burning Heaven heard that Xiao Yan had established his own power in the western regions, the former also expressed his support and made it clear that when Xiaomen develop to the southern regions in the future, then the Burning Valley will become Xiaomen's biggest guarantee in the southern region. Outside the main hall of the sect gate of the Burning Valley, Xiao Yang and the four people hugged the elder Burning Heaven and the elder Li Chengshu heavily in front of them, and slowly spit out their solemn words, saying, "Two elders, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Take care. Be careful on the road. When you arrive in the middle region, remember to keep a low profile. The people there are no better than those in the south region." The two nodded heavily, and then the four turned and left. However, just as Xiao Yang and his party had just arrived outside the mountain where the Burning Valley was located, a familiar figure suddenly flew from a distance. At a glance, it was Li Bingrui. On the day when Xiaomen was founded, the woman received the news from the fire maple forest in the southern region and returned quickly. Xiao Yang thought she wouldn't have any intersection with this man next, but she didn't expect that she came back at this time. Xiao Yang had to take a helpless attitude towards this. It was Liana who saw Li Bingrui again. A happy smile immediately appeared on her delicate face. The two women looked at each other and smiled. Then Li Bingrui's eyes fell on Xiao Yang again and slowly said, "I said I would kill you myself, so don't try to get rid of me so easily." Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang had to shake his head and looked at each other with the little medical fairy on the side. Even if he spoke faintly, he moved and flew away towards the eastern sky. "Let's go. It's time to go." Later, the four figures also followed closely. This time, they went eastward. The target was the eastern area of the extreme south, which was under the jurisdiction of Union Pavilion. At the same time, there was also a transmission array that could lead to the middle region. Looking at the distant sky in the east, Xiao Yang hesitated. In the middle region, the most prosperous area in Yuanwu mainland, where countless strong people gather, Xiao Xian is also there. In addition, the other two different fires except Yi Honglian should also be good in the middle region. According to the news that Yi Honglian learned at the beginning, the identity of the latter did not know the specific identity and location of the other two different fires, which surprised Xiao Yang. The only news Yi Honglian gave him was that he might find information about the two different fires in the central region. Now, in addition to the different fires, Xiao Xian, the Ghost Hall, Luo Jin and others, they are also in the middle regions, and Zuna. All these are implicating him. It is imperative for the central region. Now, it has finally embarked on this road. In the next few days, the five people in this line were on their way all the time. During this period, except walking through some cities, they almost flew to the east at the fastest speed. Nanlincheng is one of the few big cities in the extreme south. Different from other places, Nanlincheng is controlled by two families. Both sides of Nanlincheng's major economies hold half, which seems fair, but in fact there are countless disputes. For many years, the two families have been in open and secret struggle. Until now, the injustice of Nanlincheng has completely disappeared, and then disappeared, and a big family in Nanlincheng. The dispute between the two families ended with the victory of one party. The winner is the king, and the control of Nanlincheng has completely fallen into the hands of the winning party. Recently, the Futu family, the person in charge of Nanlincheng, is holding a grand banquet to celebrate the complete control of Nanlincheng on the one hand and celebrate the birthday of their ancestors on the other. This banquet was the biggest event in Nanlincheng area for many years. The strong people in many surrounding cities came to celebrate their birthday. Even the strong people of Yuanwang came to this banquet, which was as many as 10, not for anything else, because the ancestor of the Futu family was a super strong person whose strength reached the realm of Yuanhuang, named Futu Hao. On the street, Xiao Yang and his party were walking carefree towards the south side of the city, But when they passed a huge other garden, the words from the crowd at the door made Xiao Yang step forward a little, together with several other people around him, stopped and looked at Xiao Yang suspiciously. "What's the matter? Do you know this Fu Tu Hao?" Bai Hua raised his eyebrows. He was sure that he and Xiao Yang were here for the first time. If the ancestor of the Fu Tu family had never been elsewhere, Xiao Yang should not recognize it. "I don't know, but I've heard the name, and..." Xiao Yang frowned lightly, and the memory in his mind quickly turned back to the past. When he first arrived in Yuanwu mainland and just got Luo Tianding, he seemed to have heard the name. Fu Tu Hao was the reason for the fragmentation of Luo Tianding. At the same time, it was also the culprit who killed the last master of Luo Tianding. Hiss. "Ju Tong, I can't imagine that I really ran into the man who killed you." Looking back carefully, Xiao Yang remembered that when he first got Luo Tianding, the remaining soul in the Ding asked him to kill Fu Tu Hao for him. He was supposed to make a thunder punishment oath, but he saved that step because of the appearance of Ji Yu Yu. However, Xiao Yang is still a person who stresses commitment. Since Ju Tong gave Luo Tianding to himself, then he should naturally fulfill his promise. Kill Fu Tu Hao. After some hesitation in his heart, Xiao Yang shook his head slowly. Just now he heard clearly in the street. There are still 2 days before Fu Tu Hao's birthday. Since someone else is celebrating his birthday, he has to be kind. Even if he wants to kill, he has to wait until after his birthday. Now, let's find a place to rest in the city. We've been on our way recently. Everyone is very tired. We'll start on our way in 3 days. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, Xiao Yixian and Bai Hua naturally knew what he was going to do. However, they didn't mean to stop. After all, even Xiao Yang, a strongman at the level of Yuanzhong, was killed. If they were just ordinary Yuan Huang strong men, they naturally didn't have to worry. Then, Xiao Yang thought and spread his majestic soul power. He cautiously explored in the other garden of the Fu Tu family. Soon, a deep and powerful breath appeared in Xiao Yang's exploration. 8-star Source Emperor. Aware of the breath, Xiao Yang immediately confirmed the latter's identity. While he was surprised by the old man's cultivation, a slightly hoarse old voice came along. "I don't know who my friend is. If you're curious, it's better to see him face to face. Why do you do such an activity? Hihi, it is said that the ancestor of the Fu Tu family is a strong man at the level of Yuan Huang. I'm just curious for a moment." Xiao Yang smiled calmly and said, "Huh." Hearing the clear voice, Fu Tu Hao was surprised. It was not hard to hear that the other party was just a young man. At the same time, he could clearly realize that the mysterious young man also had the cultivation of Yuan Huang level. A young man with the cultivation of Yuan Huang level, I'm afraid this kind of person can't be cultivated by ordinary examples. With this in mind, Fu Tu Hao immediately said, "I don't know who you are. What's the matter when you come to Nanlincheng? I'm Xiao Yang. I'm on my way here. I just want to have a rest. I don't mean to disturb." Xiao Yang. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, Fu Tu Hao was shocked and hurried to say, "Do you dare to ask, but the Xiao Yang who participated in the battle of the 3 sects in the extreme south? It's me." The latter smiled slightly, but at the moment, Fu Tu Hao's heart was full of shock. Unexpectedly, the person who shook the whole extreme south would suddenly appear here, but then, Fu Tu Hao's old face quickly piled up a smile and hurriedly said, "In that case, I wonder if you can invite Mr. Xiao Yang to the mansion for a chat. To tell you the truth, I admire Mr. Xiao Yang's war very much. I am ashamed of myself for shaking the patriarchs of the 2 main sects with my own strength." As soon as he said this, Xiao Yang immediately moved his mind and turned to smile. The old man praised me. Since the old man invited me personally and now the birthday party is coming, you're welcome. Ha ha ha, well, it's my honor for Mr. Xiao Yang to come to my humble house. I'll inform the people and let them go to receive him. Thank you. Xiao Yang smiled, and his eyes flashed. He was afraid that Tu Hao would never think that the VIP in his eyes came for his old life. Then, Xiao Yang took Xiao Yixian and others to the door of the Fu Tu family again. Indeed, there was a middle-aged man leading several elders waiting respectfully here. His eyes kept scanning the crowd, as if he was looking for something. When Xiao Yang and his party came forward, the eyes of the middle-aged man also fell on Xiao Yang. "Your Excellency is. Your ancestors invited me." As soon as several people came near, the middle-aged man opened his mouth suspiciously. However, the prominent words in Xiao Yang's mouth made many people present suddenly change their faces, and their eyes fell on Xiao Yang like spotlights. Then, those eyes became strange and even showed a sneer. "The boy must be crazy. Even if he wants to enter the door of the Futu family again, he shouldn't make up such absurd reasons. What's more, he's standing now, but the owner of the Futu family. Isn't he trying to die?" The surprise of the previous second turned into ridicule in the twinkling of an eye. What kind of identity the ancestor of the Futu family is? Few people have even seen him on weekdays, and even some people have never seen him. With the black-robed young man in front of him, he dares to say that Futu Hao invited him, which is no different from looking for death. But then, just as everyone was ready to watch the good play, the middle-aged man, the owner of the Futu family, quickly raised a respectful look on his suspicious face, hurried forward and bowed his hands respectfully to Xiao Yang, saying, "My lord, I'm going down to kill my master, Futu Sang. It's my ancestors who told me to wait here. Please." As he spoke, Futu Sang hurriedly made a gesture of invitation. Xiao Yang smiled and walked into the Futu family's residence with a group of stunned eyes around him. A moment later, Xiao Yang and his party saw Futu Hao. His body was as thin as firewood, dressed in a linen robe, and his knuckles were like yellow bamboo knuckles, holding a crutch. His body was bent like a monster. A pair of deeply sunken old eyes were like empty shells. The faint dark orn emitted from it made people shudder. When he was panting, the hoarse sound from his mouth and nose made people feel strange. Luffy knew that this guy was an old monster at the level of Yuan Huang. I'm afraid he was thought to be a dying rotten wood. However, under this body, there is an extremely terrible power. Looking at the old man like a corpse in front of him, Liana behind Li Bingrue couldn't help shrinking. Only Xiao Yang knew that the old man was a figure thousands of years ago. It's not easy to survive now, let alone have the strength of Yuan Huang level. Hihi, Mr. Xiao Yang's reputation is as old as thunder. The voice of hoarse words came again. Futu Hao came forward tremblingly, nodded slowly towards Xiao Yang and said, "It's just rumors from the outside world. It's not trustworthy." Hehe, Mr. Xiao Yang is really modest. When the laughter fell, the old man's eyes fell on Bai Hua and others behind him. Looking at the young people in front of him, the old man suddenly saw a look of surprise. Although the young people in front of him seemed ordinary, their accomplishments were far better than those of ordinary practitioners. At a glance, Liana's accomplishments were the lowest among these people, but compared with the same period of the same period, her age is also the youngest. Such a young Hua Yuanjing is only seen in her life based on his experience. It is hard to imagine that if this little girl joins the sect power in the future, she will become the key training object of the sect. Moreover, he can feel a special breath from Liana. As for the others, their accomplishments are of course not bad at all. This group can be called the pride of the young generation. Hihi, not only Mr. Xiao Yang is a dragon and phoenix among people, but also your friends are very human. With a smile on his face, the old man slowly glanced at several people in front of him. Finally, he paused on Liana's body. In the depths of his deeply sunken eyes, he couldn't help passing a faint light. After a chat, Futu Hao invited this group to stay at his Futu house. Xiao Yang had something in his heart and would not refuse. At the same time, Futu Hao stared at the figure of several people leaving. Especially when his eyes fell on Liana, the light in the depths of his eyes suddenly flourished. Misfortune poison, Gaga, Gaga, it said that Dui sect in the middle regions once lost the saint. If the saint was her, then I'm hopeful to break through the source sect, Gaga, Gaga. At night, Xiao Yang and his party were in a guest room of the Futu family. The dim light lit up the house. At this time, Xiao Yang and Bai Hua were sitting around the table with their eyebrows frowning. The huge soul power wrapped the whole room to form an invisible shield, so that outsiders could not explore the situation. At this moment, on the bed, Liana was sitting on it with her eyes closed, and the little medical fairy on one side poured her mind into the girl's body to help her control the majestic power in her body. Although the girl has reached the source of cultivation, she is still young after all. Coupled with years of deep sleep, she is not mature. Although Xiao Yang and others helped her control the disaster poison body, she still can't use this force freely for a long time. For example, last time in the wild ancient city, the girl couldn't control the flow of source qi in her body. When she left from Futu Hao earlier, the little doctor quickly found that the source qi in her body was out of control. However, she had to use external force to recondense this force for her. Although this Futu Hao looks a little scary, he seems to be reasonable. Do we really want to kill him? While Xiao Yang was on his side, Bai Hua frowned slightly, but he hesitated a little. He didn't dare to say what a good man he was, but he also knew to distinguish right from wrong. Futu Hao's deeds were open and above board. He was even more polite to them. It was unreasonable to kill him in this way. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang looked at the white birch in front of him and said with a smile, "Why, when did you talk about kindness? You didn't act like that when you were in the Liu family. I don't know where to talk about kindness, but I don't think it makes sense. It doesn't make sense that the dispute between the two characters 1,000 years ago should be solved by us 1,000 years later. It's not unreasonable to take people's money to eliminate disasters for others, but you're right. That's why I hope to put this matter after his birthday banquet. Before that, I'll think about it first." He smiled and shook his head. Xiao Yang's eyes then focused on the two people in front of the bed. Seeing the little medical fairy who put all his energy on Liana, Xiao Yang couldn't help glancing over a complex look in his dark eyes. He didn't understand some things, but once he put it bluntly, he was just afraid that it would deepen the disagreement between the two, not to mention who. When Xiao Yang was distracted, Liana on the bed finally breathed a long breath, and the energy that could not escape in her body was controlled again. Under the guidance of Xiao Yishen, Liana tried to operate the internal skills to control those forces a little bit. At the same time, Xiao Yishen also came back and turned to look at Xiao Yang at the moment. "It's all right. Well, it's no big deal, but the girl doesn't have a comprehensive control of her own strength. It'll be fine in a while." The little Dr. Xian nodded lightly. Mai Mao paused on Xiao Yang, and then sat down beside them. Then the door was opened from the outside. Li Bingrui just came back from the outside. She looked at Liana, who was practicing at ease on the bed, nodded slightly, and then her eyes fell on the three Xiao Yang in front of her. She paused and said, "I just heard something about the two families in Nanlincheng outside. Do you want to hear it?" At the same time, in another place of the Futu family, Futu Hao and the owner Futu Sang are in a room. Under the light of candles, they are talking about something in a low voice. "Laro Zhu, is that girl really a disaster poison?" After listening to his father's words, Futu Sang was surprised at her fate. No wonder the little girl was young, but she could have such accomplishments. It was originally attributed to this. With my eyesight, I can't be mistaken. I clearly felt a faint breath from the girl. That breath is indeed a disaster poison body. As far as I know, many years ago, Zhongyuju sect lost their sect saint. The original baby girl was the owner of the disaster poison body. If I guessed correctly, this girl would be the one a saint. Hiss. As soon as he said this, Futu Sang's face suddenly changed. If so, over the years, Duerzong has never given up looking for this saint. Now she appears in our house. If we can bring the woman to Duerzong, then our Futu family can become the second burning valley in the extreme south. At the thought of the power of the Source Clan level, a fine light suddenly flashed through the deep sunken eyes of Futu Hao. Once he has the cultivation of the Source Clan level, not only his status as a Futu family will be promoted rapidly, but also his life will be improved. At this point, Futu Hao's bent body trembled, and he stroked his waist like a bamboo finger. There was an old scar, which made his cultivation stagnate in the 8-star Source Emperor for so many years. Whenever he wanted to come here, he couldn't help but emerge from his mind. Ju Tong. Laro Zhu, don't forget that Xiao Yang is also a strongman of Yuan Huang. It is said that his combat power is far beyond the ordinary strongman of the same level, and he seems to be involved in a wide range behind him. At the beginning of the 3 wars, he invited more than 30 strong men of Yuan Wang. If we fight with them, I'm afraid it's wrong. Frown, Fu Tu Sang said the most important point. Xiao Yang is a strong emperor. Trying to take people from him is tantamount to taking food from the mouth of a tiger. Even if his Fu Tu family is powerful in the south of the city, it is definitely not that simple to deal with Xiao Yang. Fool, if you want to catch the girl, why do you want us to do it? We just need to convey the news to Dui Zong and exchange enough interests from them. As for others, it's all up to them. Hearing the speech, Fu Tu Hao snorted coldly, and his words fell down. His body sitting in the chair also stood up, leaned on crutches and slowly adjusted the door. Then he turned around again, looked at Fu Tu Sang again and said in a deep voice, "Send someone to the central region immediately tonight. Remember to go to Duerzong as quickly as possible. Before that, I will try my best to hold this group first and tell them that if they can't bring back the saint for their own reasons, everything has nothing to do with my Fu Tu family." After that, Fu Tu Hao went out. After a little meditation, Fu Tu Sang immediately called and sent the strong of the family to the central region overnight according to the instructions of the former Zhu family. Hearing Li Bingrui's words, Xiao Yang couldn't help raising his eyebrows. He immediately thought of Zhu Tong, the last master of Luo Tianding. Both are surnamed Zhu, and both are rivals. Can we say, this Zhu family is Zhu Tong's family? As soon as his eyes turned, Xiao Yang couldn't help sighing and shaking his head. If so, it would be too dramatic. The 2 families fought with each other for thousands of years. Although the Fu Tu family won, the ancestor of the Zhu family was so immortal that Xiao Yang killed Fu Tu Hao for him. In this way, the influence of the Fu Tu family in Nanlincheng will be greatly reduced. When all forces come to attack, the Fu Tu family will no longer exist. In this way, the disputes between the 2 families finally ended in death. In the next 2 days, Xiao Yang and his party had a good time under the hospitality of Fu Tu Hao. During this period, Fu Tu Hao repeatedly mentioned asking Xiao Yang and his party to stay longer. Xiao Yang naturally looked polite, but he couldn't help feeling suspicious about it. The old man's enthusiasm was right, but it seemed too much, and there seemed to be some tentative meaning between his words. Several times his attention was focused on Liana. In this regard, Xiao Yang was secretly cautious in his heart, but he didn't tell all this. He just waited quietly for the old man's performance. Originally, he didn't have much intention to kill the old man in his heart, but his behavior made Xiao Yang feel a threat. He doesn't like the people behind him to be the target of others, so no matter what the old man thinks, Xiao Yang will completely wipe it out before he implements it. But now is not the time. As Xiao Yang said before, after all, it is someone else's birthday banquet, which should give some face. As for the matter of taking life, it's not too much to say later. In the spacious hall, the head is turbulent and lively. There is a festive atmosphere around the whole Fu Tu family. Today is the birthday of Fu Tu Hao, the ancestor of Fu Tu family. At this moment, the strong invited by all parties are either in the courtyard or in the hall, and everyone's faces are filled with joy. Although there are some people who hate the butcher's guts among these forces, they do extremely perfect scene work. On the first seat in the hall, at this moment, an old man who looked as if he was dying sat on it with a smile and looked at the exchange and salutation of the guests below. A pair of muddy old eyes could not help showing a sense of satisfaction. He especially enjoyed such an attitude of stars and the moon. It was not until a long time later that Xiao Yang took Xiao Yixian and others into the hall and politely arched his hand at Fu Tu Hao on the first seat. The latter got up to meet each other. Seeing this scene, the faces of the people in the originally busy hall were slightly shocked, and then all kinds of eyes fell on Xiao Yang and others. Many people have heard of the young man personally invited by Fu Tu Hao, but at this moment, they are still surprised. Who is this boy? It can make Fu Tu Hao, who is the Source Emperor's strong man, treat him like this. Hey, everyone, I believe you are also very curious about who this gentleman is. Fu Tu Hao smiled faintly, but the words spit out in his mouth made everyone present pick up their spirits immediately. One by one straightened their ears and waited for Fu Tu Hao to reveal the answer for them. Hey, if you want to talk about it, I believe this gentleman's name is as loud as thunder. Next, I will introduce you grandly. This gentleman is the one who participated in the battle of the three sects in the extreme south not long ago. Xiao Yan. Wow. As soon as this remark came out, the people present immediately burst into an uproar. Unbelievable eyes fell on Xiao Yan in an instant. It's hard to imagine that this famous figure in the south would appear in front of them, and what's more shocking is that he also appeared at Futu Hao's birthday banquet, which is undoubtedly a kind of support for Futu family. After this, I'm afraid that the status of the Futu family in the extreme south will be further improved. At that time, I'm afraid there will be many forces under its door. I think it's hard to estimate the future of the Futu family. Looking at the people whose faces changed in the hall, Futu Hao couldn't help laughing. These fools might not know that after today, his Futu family will not only become famous, but also have a strong source level. In the future, the Futu family will be more than this small Nanlincheng. From now on, even the Burning Valley will give him 3 points. After that, the birthday banquet was officially held as everyone sat down. When they talked to each other, their eyes kept scanning back and forth between Xiao Yang and Futu Hao, and the atmosphere on the field became more and more lively. The whole process of the banquet, from morning to night, the whole Futu family, even the whole Nanlincheng, spent slowly in a festive atmosphere. It was not until late at night that Xiao Yang and others returned to the courtyard. When the mind moved, the source gas in the body flowed rapidly, and the dense color on Xiao Yang's face quickly disappeared. A bright light flashed through a pair of painted black eyes, killing the opportunity, and quietly emerged. He gave an order to Xiao Yixian and others. Then Xiao Yang moved and disappeared into the night sky. In situ, several people looked at each other and shrugged helplessly. Then he sat quietly in the courtyard and waited for Xiao Yang's return. On the other hand, Futu Hao is slowly returning to his room. When he is about to close the door, Xiao Yang's body appears in his yard like a ghost. Futu Hao frowns immediately and the source gas in his body is quietly raised. Xiao Yang comes like this, but it doesn't seem like something good has happened. Mr. Xiao Yang, since the night is deep, why not have a rest earlier? The old man's eyes flickered. From Xiao Yang's eyes, he clearly noticed a killing intention. Did he find anything? As soon as he thought of this, the uneasiness in Futu Hao's heart became more and more intense. Since he found out, why didn't he tear his face with him 2 days ago, rather than wait until this time? Old sir, your birthday is over. Now I'm here to collect something from you for others. Xiao Yang's face gradually became indifferent. Futu Hao also stepped out of the door. His turbid eyes stared at Xiao Yang and said in a deep voice, "Take what? Take your life. For whom?" Luo Tianding, Ju Tong. Ju Tong. Hearing the name that was printed in the depths of his mind and could never be erased, Futu Hao's face suddenly changed. Then, his eyes fell on the former again and said in a surprised tone, "Isn't that guy dead yet?" "Dead, man is indeed dead, but before he dies, he asks me to kill you." Xiao Yang said faintly, "Why did you kill me for a dead man?" Hearing the speech, Futu Hao's face suddenly became gloomy. A pair of deeply sunken old eyes stared at Xiao Yang in front of him, but Xiao Yang was a little puzzled. Seeing the situation, Xiao Yang smiled non-committally, and then joked, "Don't you know what I'm for?" Hearing this, Futu Hao was stunned. His eyes turned, and then he seemed to think of something and said in surprise, "Luo Tianding." Xiao Yang smiled, his heart moved, and the source qi in his body was immediately transported to various meridians. A layer of purple flame on his body surface also rose. "Well, that's all. Next, let Xiao Yang see how powerful you were thousands of years ago." While the voice in his mouth fell, Xiao Yang stamped the ground fiercely with the soles of his feet, and his body shape suddenly burst forward. His hands and fingers clenched their fists, and his body shape appeared in front of Futu Hao in the blink of an eye. The fist strongly broke through the void under the package of fire, and the invisible space was compressed to the extreme under this terrible force. In the twinkling of an eye, an invisible airshell was formed. With a sharp popping sound from heaven and earth, it suddenly burst out and was smashed against Futu Hao. The old man's cultivation is not low. It's not so easy to deal with him, so once he makes a move, Xiao Yang can't give him a chance to backhand easily. Hey, young man, it's not your proper demeanor to treat an elder like this. Although Xiao Yang's strike is powerful, Fu Tu Hao is not an ordinary person. How can the cultivation of the 8-star Source Emperor be afraid of a hairy boy who has just entered the realm of the Source Emperor? Although Xiao Yang has a good reputation in the extreme south, it's just a rumor. The old man stepped back half a step, turned his hands and put the wooden stick in front of him. At the same time, the vigorous source gas in his body also poured into the walking stick. The surging source gas, even when it condensed into a thin layer of energy cutin on the surface of the walking stick, immediately the next moment, Xiao Yang's fist collided with the walking stick. Bang! When the fist fell on the walking stick, an unparalleled domineering wind burst out from the walking stick. The sharp breath also left a shallow blood mark on Xiao Yang's fist. Aware of this, Xiao Yang's face immediately changed. The old guy's source chi seemed to be different. Then, old Fu Tu Hao's face showed a touch of sarcasm. His thin body was as thin as firewood. With a slight shock, the surging source gas rushed out of the walking stick. When Xiao Yang's face changed, he quickly stepped back. At the moment when his body stopped, several fierce winds broke through the air, and Xiao Yang quickly blew out a few fists, talking about those energy exercises. Sheng Sheng exploded, but Rao was so. The energy exercises also shattered Xiao Yang's sleeves and robes. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang could not help but frown and said in his heart. Then he looked up and looked at Fu Tu Hao again. What a domineering source of qi. With such strength, you are willing to bow down in the south-facing city. His eyes narrowed and Xiao Yang stared at the old man opposite. He was surprised. This guy's source qi was quite overbearing. If you guessed right, his source qi must be metal, which is good at combat power. With such cultivation, even at the same level, Fu Tu Hao has few enemies. In this far south, he can be regarded as a top strong man, but it was surprising that he was willing to bend down in the south-facing city with his family. Being too high-profile may not be a good thing. Just like those two major sects, even if their power is much higher than that of our floating butcher family, they still end up in a miserable end. What's wrong with being the leader of one party? At least no one will attack our floating butcher family. Hearing the speech, Fu Tu Hao glanced and smiled. It seemed that he didn't care about the so-called power, but no one knew what he thought in his heart. But now, Mr. Xiao Yang, don't you think about your situation first? I know that you have good combat power. With your peak cultivation, Yuan Wang can fight against the strong of Yuan Huang, and even master the legendary strange fire. However, in my eyes, you are just the beginning of Yuan Huang. In terms of combat power, I am not below you. With my cultivation, I am above you. I think kill me, boy, you're still young. At the moment when the voice fell, Fu Tu Hao's right hand held the walking stick against the trend, and immediately waved it violently. A golden energy competition suddenly burst out. The unparalleled edge easily cut through the void. In the blink of an eye, he had come to Xiao Yang. The terrible smell contained in it was not surprised by Xiao Yang's nature. Even if the old guy was at the level of the whole Yuan Emperor, there are absolutely few opponents. This Fu Tu Hao is definitely the most powerful man among all the strong Yuan Huang warriors Xiao Yang has ever seen. Golden Elephant, Kai. Xiao Yanhu's body suddenly shook with a loud drink from his heart and hair. The glittering golden light immediately condensed on the body surface. His 5 fingers clenched their fists again. The terrible strength made the invisible void click. Then he suddenly punched forward, and the surging power poured out wildly. The next moment, the earth-shaking hum sounded, the invisible energy storm raised the whole courtyard to the ground in an instant, and the energy competition dissipated with it. Shua. Almost at the same time, the sound of breaking the air suddenly sounded. In front of Xiao Yang's body, a bent body suddenly appeared. He stabbed forward with his crutch as the blade, and the attack was fierce and domineering. When Xiao Yang blinked, the edge covered by the crutch fell on his chest. In the burst of fire, a conspicuous crack appeared on Xiao Yang's golden elephant decision. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's face suddenly changed dramatically. He was the first person who could make his golden elephant hurt by one blow alone. This Fu Tu Hao is definitely the first person in history. Jinshan Dao, breaking the golden body, it's perfect. Fu Tu Hao smiled coldly and twisted his dry palm holding the stick. The wooden stick in his hand turned into a gold knife in the blink of an eye. Then Fu Tu Hao loosened his palm holding the handle, and the palm collided with the end of the handle. He heard a click. Xiao Yan's invincible golden elephant was smashed. This video will end here.